David R. here. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 10 planks of communism. And I'm using the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels as my reference. Before I get started on the 10 planks, I want to briefly summarize the manifesto. The authors state that all existing societies have a history of class struggle. This struggle is between lord and serf, free man and slave, oppressor and oppressed. The oppressors are the bourgeoisie, or the landowners, the owners of corporations and companies. The oppressed are the proletariat. These are the workers who basically have nothing to offer except their labor. And once their labor runs out, then they are no longer of value. Marx and Engels state that the proletariat, the oppressed worker, is more like an appendage of the machine itself. They use their labor for survival. And this is akin to a machine on an assembly line. They state that the proletariat form trade unions and eventually political parties. The Marxists support the proletariat and wish to overthrow the bourgeoisie. Now I want to talk about the 10 planks of communism. And I want to talk about these in relation to American society. And I want to ask you at the end, is America a communist country? You can listen and see for yourself, and then you can answer that question when I get to that point. The 10 planks of communism. The first plank, abolition of private property and application of all rents of land to public purposes. Every time a communist regime takes power in a country, they confiscate property. Now, this takes place in the USA, actually. We don't hear a lot about it, but it is something that happens all the time. For instance, this plank falls under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution of eminent domain. Eminent domain is the government's right to purchase your land and private property to complete a project. Basically, the government gives you a certain amount of money to take your land, even if you didn't want to give up your land. The power of eminent domain is known as the Takings Clause of the Fifth Amendment. The government must meet two requirements in order to impose the Takings Clause. One, the property must be acquired for public use. Two, government must pay just compensation to the owner of whose property they are confiscating. Property taxes fall under this plank because let's just say you paid off the mortgage to your house, but you stopped paying property taxes. Eventually, your home will be confiscated. It will be taken by the local government because you don't really own your house. You don't really own your land. You're renting it. Even if you think that you have bought it, you are still renting it. Now, Marx and Engels did not believe in private property ownership. They believed that the government should own all the land. The second plank, a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. A progressive or graduated income tax is based on what the taxpayer can pay. So if you don't earn a lot, you don't pay a lot. If you earn more, you pay more. The 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution allows the government to impose a federal income tax on people. Many scholars believe that the 16th Amendment was never ratified, so it's unconstitutional. But yet, we have a federal income tax anyway. The problem I have with taxes is that the money is usually spent on wars or espionage activities, and it's not really allocated that much to education, the homeless problems. It is wasteful spending. The third plank, abolition of all rights of inheritance. The U.S. version of this plank is the death tax or inheritance tax. It's basically if somebody dies, you inherit their property or their money or whatever it is, the government can tax that. The gift tax falls under this plank as well. This refers to a specific amount of money you give to someone within a year. If it goes above $15,000, you will be taxed on that. The fourth plank, confiscation of all property of immigrants and rebels. Immigrants, with an E, are people that leave the country. And immigrants, with an I, are people that come into the country. So let's just say if you decide to immigrate, meaning go to another country and live, the government has a right to confiscate your property from your home country. This plank is imposed whether you stay or leave because under the civil asset forfeiture law, police have the power to keep or sell any property they believe was involved in the commission of a crime. Police have abused this power many times. Here's an example. Angela Rodriguez and Joyce Copeland lost $17,900 to police in which no charges were ever filed against them. They sued for the recovery of their money, but a federal court said they lacked standing to sue for possession of their own assets. This happens quite a bit, and I used to see a lot of videos on this very subject. Somebody might be an owner of a business, and they decide to go to the bank, and they are stopped by a cop along the way. Let's say that person has several $1,000s on them. The cop will confiscate the money and offer the person a deal. The cop will say, well, you give me the money and I won't take you to jail. And 9 times out of 10, that person will just hand over their money to the cop. This is actual highway robbery, but it's legal. Now, the IRS seizes property as well from people who decide to not pay their taxes or don't have enough money to pay their taxes, whichever. They seize property and assets. The fifth plank, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. You could say this is the Federal Reserve, but the Federal Reserve is a privately run bank. It is not a national bank. It controls and profits by printing money through the U.S. Treasury. It manipulates interest rates as well. But technically speaking, it's not a national bank. The sixth plank, centralization of the means of communication and transportation in the hands of the state. These are regulatory agencies like the FCC and the FAA. The FCC is the Federal Communications Commission. They control the mass media. They regulate interstate and international communications by radio, television, wire, satellite, and cable in all 50 states. The FAA is the Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA is responsible for regulating aviation and promoting safety. Either of these two government entities can cut off communication or air travel, and they have done it before. The seventh plank, extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivation of wastelands, and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with a common plan. An example of this was fully realized on June 9, 2011, when then-President Obama signed into law Executive Order 13575. This ceded U.S. agriculture to the UN. Some of the language includes sustainable rural communities, which happens to be one of the phrases in the UN Agenda 21 plan. What is Agenda 21? According to the United Nations website, Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, government, and major groups in every area in which humans have impact on the environment. This calls for the government to take over all land use and not leave any decision in the hands of the private owner. The eighth plank, equal liability of all labor, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Equal liability of all labor means everyone is paid the same amount, no matter what kind of job they do. A janitor would be paid the same as a doctor or a lawyer. Remember, this is communism in common, communis. Everybody is on an equal playing field. The ninth plank, combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries. Gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population of the country. This is corporate farming, and in communist countries, they call this communal farming, where there is no single owner of the land that is being farmed. The 10th plank, free education for all children in government schools, abolition of children's factory labor in its present form, combination of education with industrial production, etc. This is the public education system. Now, there's also talk of making college for free. It falls under this plank as well. I agree that children should not be slave laborers. They should be at home and being schooled by their parents. Other communist aims: the abolition of individuality and freedom. Censorship. This elicits self-censorship. And collectivism, thinking what everybody else is thinking, doing what everybody else is doing. That's all part of the communist system and erasing the individual. In the USA, we used to have what was called rugged individualism, but I don't think that takes place too much anymore. And if it does, that individual will be shamed, possibly jailed for just being themselves. Marx said that the individual must be swept out of the way and made impossible. Abolition of the family. You see this with the high abortion rates, the destruction of the nuclear family, the promotion of single motherhood, and the list goes on and on. You know, destroying the family is one of the key components to a communist system. Abolish countries and nationality. This is the open borders concept that George Soros promotes, and you hear about it everywhere. It's globalism, homogeneity, everybody being the same, everybody speaking the same language, and eventually everybody using the same currency. I don't like this because you could go to the far reaches of Brazil and somebody's drinking a Pepsi. They are speaking English. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of them do. I just think that people should retain their culture. They shouldn't give it up for globalism. Globalism is a bad thing. It ruins countries. But that's just my opinion. Abolish eternal truths. Communism seeks to overthrow the truth. They seek to get rid of freedom, religion, belief in God, and replace it with the state. Free education for all children in public schools, since private schooling is prohibited. Well, obviously, private schooling most likely means homeschooling. Now, I've heard of instances where government doesn't allow homeschooling in certain areas. In conclusion, I want to ask the same question that I asked at the beginning. Is the U.S. a communist country? I think it's almost communist. It can't be full-blown communist until the guns are taken from the population. All totalitarian governments confiscate guns. Hitler did it, Mao did it, Stalin did it, all of them did it. And the U.S. will probably fall in line with that someday. I hope people give their government a fight first. But I don't know. As the population becomes more collective, people are gladly giving up their rights just to fit in, I guess. My recommendation is that you educate yourself. Read books like the Communist Manifesto. Read other books as well. Learn from history. Learn about the Bolsheviks. Learn about the Nazis. Do as much research as you can. And when you do, you're going to see patterns. You'll see that we are already in that cycle in this country right now. Well, anyway, that's all I got. Talk to you later. Bye.